Hey there, it's Dr. Shanae. How's it going? I just wanted to come back and say happy Friday. So this might be a Friday thing because it's feeling that way as far as the days in which I have a little bit more time than others. And so I just wanted to pick up where we left off when we were talking about leadership. One of the first things that we did when we were talking about leadership was talking about leadership competence, as we are still using our text, um, credibility. Okay, how leaders gain and lose it. Speaking of credibility, why people demand it. And so, just as a brief little recap from last week, what we did was talk about competency as a way to build trust, competency as a way of saying, not only do I have the proficiency, the knowledge, skills, attitudes and behaviors of the leader that I am espousing to be. But I am also in a place where I am able to display core values and beliefs, both individually, like personally, and in an organization, then professionally. Okay. And so think about this when we're talking about value add, we're talking about when you have embedded in how you show up, period, how you are in the world, how you show up when you are doing a job, and how you are able to be consistent in that space. Consistent doesn't mean every day. Consistent doesn't mean every week. It's not like confined to space and time. It's how you show up when you show up is 100% always in alignment. So, one of the things that I am going to talk about in our next, I believe we're going to talk about in our next recording here on leadership and credibility as a leader, as you are building, is really looking at the relationship part of being a leader. And so, as we are recapping about competency, about core values, your beliefs, knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors all being aligned, I wanted to talk a little bit today about honesty. And the reason I want to talk about honesty is because there was an individual that I will not disclose. No one here knows them. So there was someone that had commissioned me to be their coach, to really build their business. And one of the first things that we do when we are seeing if it's a match is we're talking about what is it that you do basic. What are the competencies that you have? What is it? And I usually pick up, I don't usually ask right out, what do you value? I usually pick up on that. Okay. Very easily, just in that conversation. And so it was really a push and a drive to have a product made available for people to purchase. And so, from that product discussion, it was like, let's pull back a little bit, so within even the wording of what you're going to provide, which included, as is the case with a lot of people, it included a guarantee of a return on the investment and in a dollar amount. But it was tied to what they had, in essence, at least the way that they worded it, it was tied to what it is that they achieved, but they had not. So it began to be in this discussion today on credibility based on being honest. You have to understand that nothing that you're going to do that is sustainable, that is long lasting, is going to be based on a lie. Not going to happen. Okay. Especially being in this group, bold Christian leaders, we are finding ourselves in a position to really stand out amongst a lot of people when you take into account the dishonesty that is going on in the world. Now, I don't often speak specifically to a lot of the politics that are going on because just the way that God has sort of refined me, I'm very solution based. I may talk about it, amongst friends, private conversations, trusted friends. I may be praying about it. I may be in communion with the Lord on how to go about a thing. But when it's all said and done, I think about even this community being the Bold Christian Collective, an opportunity to be able to help you all shake off any feelings of being jaded, shake off any feelings of imposter syndrome, shake off any of those extra things so that you can step up and be in place strategically to be bold and leading as you would with the values and the sort of faith integration components of showing up with high moral and ethical standards. Okay. So when we think about where you might be as far as establishing your business or maybe even growing professionally within an organization that is owned by someone else other than yourself, you want to get into position to sort of self-check. And I always say, engage in introspection. Think about what you're thinking about, analyze it, look at it from all different directions and from a place of humility. Don't step into reflection in a space of, am I being honest? Am I being integrous? Am I operating from a place of credibility? Don't do that without being honest with yourself first. Even in Nehemiah, the message from, like, as you guys have seen me reference the leadership Bible, you have to be in a place where you show up, regardless of if your role requires it. But when it comes down to Nehemiah and the lessons learned there, it's lead yourself first. If you feel that you still want to show up in a way that only feels good to you, then you're missing a mark. Because it has to not only align with what it is that God is doing with you, but it also has to be reflective of when you are in refinement by the Lord. It doesn't always feel good, right? It doesn't. So it's like your comfort level isn't really what matters. You know, your ability to be in that place where your core values, again, your beliefs, your knowledge, skills, behaviors, and attitudes align with the will of the Lord for you and your purpose fulfillment. So let's dig just a little bit deeper when it comes down to honesty. Honesty has been selected as one of the most oftenly identified leadership characteristics. When I gave you that example earlier, what I'm really highlighting is that you can't lead in a place without, let me put a little caveat, without God's direction, if you don't have what it is that you're saying you're going to give. And I say without God's direction because I do want to highlight the fact that we know that the Lord uses those that aren't necessarily equipped because it's for him to get the glory. So I want to separate that from being dishonest and saying that you can provide someone. I can claim that I can guarantee you $10,000 by the end of the week when you cannot. Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't be one of those people that collects a check but can't deliver, that you're not operating through the will of the Holy Spirit. You have to be very careful of that before you end up reaping what you're sowing. So no matter where you've studied, no matter what sort of background you have to be in a place where the most important attribute that you retain, one of the most, is being honest. What is it that you're delivering? What are your proof points? And how is it that you're going to get a person from point A to point B, regardless of what happens in between? Right. And so that's why a lot of times when I'm working with you as your coach, I would be telling you, I don't really have any guarantees if you're not going to do the work. I know that when it comes down to, in essence, a plug and play, if you do X, Y, and Z, it is 100% guaranteed to end up being something that works out for your good. You will move the needle to goal attainment. And that's because just in my background, hey, I'm Dr. Tran. I'm an organizational development psychologist, as well as a licensed clinical social work therapist who has over 20 years of experience. So I know human behavior. I know cognition. I know the neurological components that bring about change. Even when it comes down to, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, behavioral activation. So think about this. Your homework, in some respects, because I'm going to close it now, is your homework is to sit down and take some time to journal about areas in your life where there's a disconnect when it comes down to credibility so far. Your knowledge, skills, behaviors, attitudes, your value system, the difference between how you show up in person versus in an organization and in your business, but also taking some time, between now and then to practice some introspection. These are the activities that you can do to really bring to life the materials that I'm covering here. And so it has been beyond 10 minutes. I don't want to go very long with these little leadership tips, but think about it. How can you ensure that you are doing everything that you need to do as you launch, as you move forward, as you are maybe even seeking accountability? Think about your ability to be credible. So I'm just going to say bye for now. You guys have an amazing, and I mean an amazing week, and be blessed until next week. All right. Take care.